bet.
I have 7:01. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Dreer, Counselor Irvin,
Here.
Counselor Fleck,
Here.
Counselor Merriday,
Here.
Counselor Savage. One moment, I believe Counselor Stennett is online and I forgot to. There he is. Sorry, Counselor. There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you. And Mayor Solsby.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Items to be added to the agenda? I see none. Appearance of interested citizens. This is a time for citizen comment The council will first take comments addressing items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. The council will then take comments addressing action items on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name, identify whether they are a city resident, and if so, their ward. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less with council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for a public hearing may be provided only during that hearing. The council will not make any decisions based on public comment. However, staff and council may choose to ask questions or comment following the conclusion of the citizens' comments. Bonnie Sano.
I'm Bonnie Sano. I do have a Cottage Grove address. I do not live in the city limits. So Mike Fleck called me out the last time I spoke for not living within the city limits. Me, as though I had no business speaking if I don't live within the city limits. Meaning, if I don't live within the city limits, I have no business caring about what goes on in Cottage Grove. I do have a Cottage Grove home address, and I do care what happens here. Maybe I should stop shopping here, stop going to the parks, stop going to any Cottage Grove functions, and stop having friends who have been directly affected by these camps, but are too intimidated to speak up and challenge you. At least 2 of the 3 counselors are ones who consistently advocated for these camps, for the low barrier aspect, and for the housing first aspect. They are the ones who voted for the reckless spending of wasteful thousands of dollars that my friends are going to have to pay for with their taxes. I certainly have more of an interest here than the Eugene Realtors. I talked about last week, or the last time I spoke. I expected to say this the week after. I may be only impacted indirectly, but I do care, and I'm not intimidated. I hope this recall is very successful, and it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Secord.
Hello. Okay, it works. I'd like to bring up something I think's been forgotten in this chamber. The chamber itself demands respect. Your seats demand respect. You earn it. It's not given to you. When you chastise the people of Cottage Grove and refer to us as too stupid to know what's going on, you lost it. Your seat is not a soapbox. It's not a, you don't have a position to further your agenda. You're here for the citizens of Cottage Grove. And that's really irritating. And I owe the mayor an apology when it comes to respecting the chamber. I did not when I used some foul language and extended my middle finger. So I apologize to most of the council members. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Amy Merryday.
Hi, my name is Karen. Just kidding. Amy Merryday, Ward 3. I have some concerns about private security and how it could be used. And so I just want to bring up a few items about how people in Lulu's and beyond will be treated by private security. And so I'm assuming they'll be trained and certified by DPSST. And I was looking at the training on their website, and I'm concerned because I think they would possibly need a little more trauma-informed care training or trauma response training for that job. I'm concerned because the city is going to be relinquishing that responsibility to these sort of outside contracted people. And I'd like to hear what insurance liabilities there are regarding that and their behavior. I would like to know if they're going to be wearing guns, and I would like to know if there will be rules about observers who may come to witness what's going to happen on Thursday. I'm concerned about vigilantism. I'm concerned about people's rights being filmed and their possessions when they're being, if they're dealing with private security or police. I wonder about the relationship between a private firm and the city police, how they will be communicating, because they obviously will need support from the police at some time. And if that could be made transparent, what their means of communication would be, and how that would be, what would be public about that. And so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Butch Gabrielson.
Butch Gabrielson, 1409 East Washington. Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. We had an election. I hope you got the message, because people spoke loud and clear, I felt. I hope you guys work together, get things going in this city, kind of straighten out some of the existing problems instead of creating new ones. So with that, you know, I was always told you know, you can't fix stupid, but you can with a recall election. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Olson.
Hi, I'm Linda Olson, and I think I'm in Ward 4. I really don't know. 3, thank you. I really don't pay attention. I walk them all. So progression is noted. Thank you. Progress is being made here in our community. Conversations are being held. Positive conversations, constructive conversations. People are talking. It's not all negative. This is a work in progress. I commend all who have participated in the changes. It's uncomfortable closing down the homeless camps, even more so understanding the cleanup and seeing what's happened in not only Oregon and other cities in Oregon, but in other states. It's overwhelming seeing what California's Governor Newsom's doing. First option is to provide a ticket anywhere out of California before they're referred for social services down there. So unfortunately, they may be headed here, a free pass ticket to anywhere they want to go. And because we have measures 110, 118, 3115, I think that we are going to be a big draw. It's going to be eye-opening, uncomfortable, costly. I'm hoping that during this transition that we will have posted guidelines with code of conduct during this work in progress. I hope that the community guidelines will be transparent, that we'll have community reporting programs that are actually respective of the people in the camps and the community itself. We do not have a jail, but we still have to be holding these people accountable the same way we hold our neighbors and our community members here. The homeless referral system guidelines, it'd be nice to see what's being drawn together for that. I brought to attention to Faye Stewart today that there's poison nightshade that I'm seeing popping up around town. It's important that we be alerted to that because it is toxic to animals and children. They have bright red berries, beautiful purple flowers, and they are everywhere right now. So just as a caution to the community, nightshade is out there. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Ken Eady.
Hi, my name is Ken Ide. I am a resident of Cottage Grove as a homeless person behind Dairy Mart. I've come to let you guys know that I'm really ashamed of Cottage Grove right now. I think you've all forgotten the golden rule. That's to treat people the way you want to be treated. When you guys shut off the water during 100-degree weather, I lost faith in humanity. I hope my kitten can bring it back. I don't know how this is going to play out. I guess there's going to be some private security help. I really hope that they can do a good job. We're going to put 100 people in the dog park, and you're putting 100 people in a dog park where dogs poop. Is that how you guys treat your people around here? Because you guys may have lost your gnome. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Randall Lammerman.
Randall Lammerman. I am a resident Ward 2. So a couple quick things. I know Councilor Urban and Madam Mayor, you guys have been getting a lot of slack over St. Benny's not coming to town after all. But I do want to praise at least you guys. I know Mike was doing some digging on it too, I'm sure. For actually doing your due diligence and going and looking at what they were offering instead of just taking it at face value. Everything looks great until you start pulling back the blinds a little bit and then you start to see some of the dirt. I'd want to also say thank you for moving away from the more permanent camp setting. That's what everyone's been asking for, and you guys are doing it. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's kind of sad not seeing the other guys here, but with the recall, it was stated over and over and over that it's just a small handful of people, bullies, as some would state, that were trying to get them recalled. There were approximately 1,700 people who voted yes to recall the 3 counselors. It's a little bit more than a small handful. Some might not see it that way, but out of 7,500 registered voters in city limits is pretty substantial. For anyone still in council and coming into council, I think there needs to be a little bit more respect given to even non-city members. There was a couple of people that were called out for not living within city limits. I'm looking at you, Mike. The city kind of calls us up a tourist hub and destination. The people who live on the outskirts, technically they're tourists. No, they might not pay the immediate taxes. They might not see the benefits of some of the stuff happening within our community, but they do spend their money here, whether or not we like it or not. So for anyone to be disrespected simply due to the fact that they do not live within one of our 4 wards is a little ludicrous. And then lastly, I'd like to thank the community. The last couple of meetings, there's been a big showing, and it's really great to see instead of just a handful of people showing up. I'd definitely like, if anyone's listening or whatever, more people to show up, get involved, be part of your community, hold the council members responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Chloe Chapman.
Mayor Soulsby, city councilors, my name is Chloe Chapman, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. I work for Summit Bank, and I'm a resident of Eugene, so not a resident of Cottage Grove, but I'm here. I was really honored to get to know your community through my work in financing the construction of the new St. Vincent de Paul thrift store earlier this year. Your community's joy and welcoming spirit, from my perspective, at the ribbon cutting was one of the highlights of the year for me. Cottage Grove is a community that personally does inspire me. Your commitment to your community's well-being and economic prosperity reverberates throughout all of Lane County. We see it in Eugene. You cherish your town's history while creatively thinking ahead, and we could use more towns like yours in Oregon. I'm here today to ask for your consideration in partnering with Summit Bank. Summit Bank is the only bank headquartered in Eugene. We love Lane County, and we are invested in the success of its citizens and businesses. Summit Bank shareholders, leadership team, and board of directors are all local to this area, and community banks are vital to thriving local economies. We use deposits to redeploy money to small businesses and nonprofit organizations. 152 of the loans we issued in 2023 were under $250,000, and the average loan size was about $100,000. We finance small businesses. These loans were made to Oregon-based business owners and nonprofits. We've helped local construction companies buy new equipment, local restaurants open new locations, and our financing has built affordable housing across Lane County, including here in Cottage Grove. I'm currently in the process of helping a charter school buy its own building after years of moving between lease spaces. I love this work and seeing firsthand its positive impact on our community. And our bank also gives back in some key ways. Last year, Summit Bank gave over $250,000 to local nonprofit and arts organizations. We have employee donation matching programs and volunteered over 1,100 hours. And most of us, myself included, are on boards or volunteer in other capacities with local nonprofits. And we continue to win the top 100 best workplaces in Oregon and the top 100 most sustainable workplaces in Oregon, which are based on employee survey results. We do care for our colleagues, 3/4 of which live here in Lane County, some of them here in Cottage Grove. At $1.2 billion in assets, Summit Bank is the second largest bank headquartered in Oregon, and we're the only bank headquartered in Eugene. By contrast, Umpqua Bank, the other large Oregon bank, is a $52 billion bank that just moved its parent company to Washington State. We really are one of the last community banks here. We work personally with our clients. We don't have 1-800 numbers, and any dollars that are deposited with us get reinvested back into our community. Like the city of Cottage Grove, Summit Bank is committed to local prosperity and success. And we ask that you please consider depositing future funds with Summit Bank and would welcome the chance to speak with you further about this. Thank you sincerely for your time, your consideration, and for your service to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Public hearings, I see none. Consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Who's? Oh, it's not an appropriate time. Sorry. You have to sign up ahead and then I'll call you. When is our actual next meeting? It's this
26.
the 6th. The
At
6th. At 7 o'clock, yes.
6:45 sign up.
All right. Anyone opposed? I see none. Passes unanimous. Resolutions and ordinances. Item A, approval of a resolution calling a major election for general obligation bonds, declaring intent to reimburse expenditures and related matters. Public Works Director, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. On May 8th, 2023, the City Council approved resolution number 2095, forming the Ad Hoc Street Improvement and Funding Committee. The committee was charged to make a recommendation to the council on how to improve the city streets to address the $35 million backlog of street repairs and maintenance. On April 2nd, 2024, Chair Amber Baylor presented to the council the committee's recommendations to improve streets and increase the revenue to fund the improvements. I have attached that item in your packet that has the recommendations. The city council reviewed, discussed, and adopted the recommendations. Council then directed staff to draft a resolution for council's consideration that refers a general obligation bond for street improvements to the November 5th, 2024 general election. If approved, the city would issue bonds raising approximately $2.5 million. The general obligation bond debt would be paid back by levying a 50 cent per thousand of assessed value on all properties within the city limits for 5 years. The revenue would be dedicated to repair Row River Road from Thornton Lane to Curtin, Taylor Avenue from Gateway Boulevard to 6th Street, and Harrison Avenue from Highway 99 to R Street. I would point out that those 3 roads were on our are on our paver index in the poor condition. They also are 3 streets that have had the majority of their ADA improvements made already. So the cost to do the street work would be less because the ADA work's already been done, and the amount of time to mobilize or design the projects would be fairly quick. Staff has worked with bond counsel to draft the resolution and Pelroy and Associates to create a factual information brochure to distribute to registered voters within the city limits. Both the draft resolution and informational brochure are attached for your review. To meet the filing deadline for the November 5th, 2024 election, the last date for a governing body to file referral text or prepared ballot title in order to complete the challenge period for it by deadline, the file notice of measure is August 16th. If council approves a resolution referring the measure to the ballot, the city must publish a notice in the Register Guard in the next available publication following the approval. If the ballot measure is approved by the citizen, a citizen oversight committee will be established to ensure proceeds are used for the purposes indicated and audits will be required. So the recommendation is for council to deliberate and potentially approve the resolution.
Councilor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just want to recognize all the work that went in to coming to these conclusions for the citizen members who served on this committee. Our task was to look at the facts, look at the reality of the situation. We had good discussion on how we got to this point. We had discussion, robust discussion on what are the options. We try to get as creative as possible and thinking outside the box. And ultimately, as was stated in here, the recommendation of the committee is there's not just going to be one thing, one funding mechanism that's going to get us to get the streets back in good condition, because effectively we've had decades of deferred maintenance and decay, and entropy runs its course, and not adequate dedicated funding to keep up on things on the streets. So the question was, what do we want as Cottage Grove? And I think we came to the consensus that we want good roads. I think that's what the citizens are saying. There's any number of reasons why we want that are obvious and some less obvious, but from wear and tear on vehicles, suspension parts, wheels, tires, to just the ability to recreate in the streets, kids. I've got little kids that crash in the cracks, and that it's more financially responsible to keep up the condition. It's less expensive to maintain over time if you keep it at a certain level. So we wound up trying to figure out what that level was. What is the longest term, most cost effective pavement condition index, PCI number? And we said, that's what we want to get to be responsible. And I believe that was 72. And we were, at the time, it's a moving number, but in the low 50s or something right now. And so that was, it's kind of a shot in the dark on how much money is it going to take to actually get there. We know that money is a moving target when different rates of inflation and what can happen here in tax revenues and the tax system and everything. So anyway, this is going to be my comments on both of these items. This isn't it. Yes, there's a gas tax. That's a drop in the bucket that's a few projects. If that every, as the money rolls in, a bond, that was a favorable piece because you can say, here's exactly what we're going to do. We also have a trust issue in this city that we need to rebuild trust. We need to say what we're going to do. Then we need to do the thing, and then we need to say what we did, and see this is how it can be. So my hope is that this is one of those mechanisms where it goes to the vote, and we ask and we say, is this how we want to do it? And if the answer is no, so be it. If it's yes, then let's prove that we do what we say. So there's pieces that aren't on here that aren't ready yet for this ballot. The transportation improvement district, some more robust support for local improvement districts and making those streamlined. So we'll look forward to seeing those as they come along. There's some pieces that are outside of our control, I think, at the state level for some of these things. But I think the emphasis that I just want to put on it is that if we want good roads, we're going to have to manage the rest of the budget wisely and direct the funds and collect more funds to get to that point, because we have such a backlog to catch up on. So I just appreciate everybody's effort that went into this, and encourage more engagement along the way to the voting process to do this. So thank you.
Counselor Merryday.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to also reverberate those words from Councilor Urban, particularly the citizen members, and most especially our chair, Amber, who really kept the cats together. But we had a binder about this thick by the end of it of information that we went through, and really the dedication of those citizen members. I brought a visual, and I'm willing to pass it around. If you go to Lane County Tax Assessor and look up yourself by either name or property address, it will show you your assessed value according to the market, which is this line going pretty up, climbing pretty fast. And you'll see the assessed value that by law can only increase by 3%. So when I spoke last week about being on a fixed income, there it is. So this is your ad valorem tax bill. So it goes up every year by 3%, which is the maximum by law. It also reflects the conditions of our society, the cost, the inflation of my home value, which to me is detrimental. Every year my homeowners is increasing $200 to $300 based on this value. And I'm like, hey, it's not the value to me that way. But anyway, I had to cough up an extra $400 this year for my property tax, my homeowner's insurance. But that's just, the costs are going through the roof for road repair, for labor, for materials, and we're on this thing. So there's the need for this additional funding. We cannot get our roads up without some additional beef. So I worked it out. My current assessed value is $142,814. And at 50 cents per thousand, that would add a $71.41 increase to my property tax with whatever it goes up. That would add that much each year. So by month, that's not a lot. That's less than $10 a month that I would be contributing toward the roads. If I had a house that was assessed at $400,000, that would be $200 added to my tax bill, which spread over 12 months would come out to $16.67. So about the price of a meal out for a household. And I know people are on fixed incomes and all, but to me, if you want good roads, we're going to have to do something. And this, to me, makes good sense. I want to remind us that we had a gas tax on the bill in 2016. It was 3 cents per gallon. So if you filled up, I mean, my tank is 11 gallons, but if you filled up a 20-gallon tank, that would be 60 cents per fill up. And that is a user tax. So it doesn't give us a lot of money, but it would give something. So if we'd have gone with that, we would have had about $2.5 million towards our roads today, in the 8 years that's gone by. Another proposal that you'll hear is about gas tax coming up. So anyway, just wanted to prime the pump for that. So I would urge support by the citizenry and the council. If you want good roads or better roads, we got to do something. And if not, enjoy the ones we have as they slowly deteriorate. Maybe we can go to gravel. That was one thing we talked about in the ad hoc road committee. Well, gravel would slow down speeding somewhat. So anyway, thank you.
Counselor Fleck.
Yeah, I just would reiterate what the other counselors have said. This committee looked at a lot of different funding sources. I think this is a good compromise. The goal of that committee was to originally come up with $3.5 million a year to basically get us fixed. And when we decided that price tag is just way too high. And so I want to commend the committee for taking an honest look at what we can do with what we believe our citizens can handle. So with that, Madam Mayor, can I get a resolution number?
Resolution number 2149.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council adopt resolution 2141. Not, or 9, I apologize.
A second.
We have a motion with the second. Any more discussion? I too just want to commend the committee, and it was, I believe we had 12 at least 2-hour meetings, and it was quite the process to go through, and we had a good cross-section of citizenry too, and some with some experience in roads, which was helpful. And this is the best way to go to a vote of the citizens. All right. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Stennett,
Aye.
Counselor Merridew,
Aye.
Counselor Fleck,
Aye.
Counselor Urban,
Aye.
Mayor Soulsby.
Aye. Motion passes. Item B, approval of a resolution calling an election on November 5th, 2024 to refer to the voters of the city of Cottage Grove, Oregon, a 6-cent increase in the city's motor vehicle fuel tax and adopting a ballot title. Public Works Director, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. So my agenda memo is very similar, and I'll refrain from reading it as I did in the previous. So this item is to refer to the citizens a 6-cent per gallon increase in the motor fuel vehicle fuel tax and send it on the November 5th, 2024 general election. Legal staff has Ms. Conley, I worked with her, and she's prepared the draft resolution before you. Once again, to meet the filing deadline of November 5th, we must have this resolution adopted and sent to the elections clerk by August 16th, 2024. The 6-cent per gallon increase would generate approximately $750,000 a year. We range anywhere from right now with our 3-cent per gallon gas tax, somewhere between $350,000 upwards to $400,000 per year in revenue. And this fund would be dedicated to street improvements and maintenance, not for operations. And it would, the improvements would be made by using the paver PCI plan that we have that shows what each road segment is rated and also gives a list of criteria. There's some roads that we can make a slurry seal investment, chip seal investment, crack sealing investment that will extend the life and save from having to repave. So those investments would be made. And then once again, a citizen oversight committee would be established to ensure that the purposes of those resources are met, and audits would be required to report out to the citizens. So at this time, unless there's questions, it would be appropriate for council to consider the resolution.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. I recommend that the council adopt resolution 2150.
Second.
We have a motion with the second. Any more discussion? Councilor
So
Fleck.
just a quick question. Why do we have an ordinance in here as well? Is this something that we'll be adopting? Should it pass at that time, or are we also passing an ordinance?
So this one is a proposal of ordinance of code language to electors. So if they vote yes, this then becomes the code language. Oral resolution.
Thank you.
With Councilor Merida.
So on the gas tax, the location of the interstate exchange with the gas stations there, everyone that pulls off without really driving on the Cottage Grove roads will contribute to our roads. So that's something else to consider when you choose on your ballot.
Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Merida?
Aye.
Counselor Stennett?
Aye.
Counselor Fleck?
Aye.
Counselor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Soulsby?
Aye. Unanimous. All right. Business from the City Council. Item A, award a sanitary sewer improvements contract, Public Works, Mr. Stewart.
Alrighty, one more time. So on June 14th, 2024, the city posted an invitation to bid for sanitary sewer improvement projects. The city requested bids for replacing wastewater mains and laterals in 4 separate locations near East Jefferson Avenue and East Madison Avenue, East Polk Avenue, Taylor Avenue, and East Main Street and East Washington, all within the city limits. The work involves reconstruction of wastewater facilities, including pipe bursting, excavation, pipe bedding, pipe laying, backfill, and trench patching. Sealed bids were due by 2 p.m. on July 10th, 2024 at Branch Engineering, which is located at 310 5th Street in Springfield. The intent to bid was published on June 14th, 2024 in the Daily Journal of Commerce. One bid was received from H&J Construction, Inc. and opened at 2 p.m. on July 10th, 2024. The bid document was reviewed and deemed complete, and the bid was for $1,348,350. The engineer's estimate for the project was between $900,000 and $950,000. On July 24th, city staff met with Branch Engineering and H&J Construction to discuss ways to reduce the project cost to $900,000 or less to match the city's available funds for the projects. All parties agreed to reduce the project scope by removing the sanitary sewer line project between East Main and East Washington. That, I would just clarify, is the alley in between the old hotel that travels west towards the Armory. And then H&J Construction revised, so that section, and then also reduced the East Adams and East Jefferson project to the portion between 10th and 11th Street. H&J Construction revised bids for the sanitary sewer lines between East Polk and Taylor Avenue, between East Madison and Jefferson Streets, and from 10th to 11th on East Jefferson and East Adams is $876,736.25. And the attached contract reflects the reduced scope of the revised bid. I would share with you that these are what we call backlot sewers. They're traditionally, or practice today, is to put sewer lines, water lines, and utility lines within the road right-of-way prism. Back in the earlier establishment of cities, they ran their sewer lines in backlots, which is essentially right on the back property line of a a block. And so these, the pipe bursting method that's being proposed is hopefully the least intrusive that's going to be needed if we were to go back there and dig a full trench to replace it. It would be pretty impactful to the citizens' properties. This will give us a chance to reduce it. The excavation that needs to take place is at their, essentially their cleanouts where their current sewer lines connect with this proposed new line. So it'll give us an opportunity to minimize it. And I fully expect that there'll be a lot of concerns by citizens about this work, but we have to repair these lines. These lines are in really poor shape. When we went to reduce the scope of work, I worked with our utility staff and our engineers to look at those lines, review the videotapes, and we felt that for the money, these are the most important portions of those lines that need to be replaced. So if there's any questions, the recommendation of City Council is to award the sanitary sewer improvements to H&J Construction for $876,736.25 and authorize the city manager to sign the contract and all associated documents.
Counselor Urban.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any more discussion? Counselor Urban.
We have I know the city is full of old lines, different construction materials. We have a sense of the service life of what's existing or the expected service life. I know there's a patchwork, but I think I remember seeing a GIS map where things are traced out, but kind of ballpark, what are we looking at in the city? Are we like 40% of, serviceable pipes within their expected lifespan, or how would you quantify that?
Mayor, Councilor Irvin, that's a really good question, and I wish I could give you an intelligent response, but I really can't. We're in the process of hopefully working to build a brand new sewer master plan, which would include that information. I will share with you that a year ago, we did hire an engineering firm to come in and monitor the winter flows in a lot of the sewer lines and stormwater. What we found is there are areas, and this is an isolated area in our community where there's a lot of additional, whenever it rains, we get what we call infiltration. And so that infiltration essentially is coming from outside the pipe and increasing the flows. We'll see at our wastewater treatment plant, if we receive an out of the ordinary storm with a lot of rainfall, we may see our average go from 3.5 million gallons per day and push it to upwards of 9 million gallons. So there's a lot of infiltration coming into these pipes. So I wish I could tell you there's all kinds of different types of pipe. There's red clay pipes from probably some of our oldest pipes. These concrete pipes are ones that are looking to be replaced in this. And then anywhere where we've had the opportunity to install the newer plastic pipes, C900 type pipes, those are they're new technology, and they seem to be lasting longer and could give us better service life. But the fact of the matter is our community's old, and there's areas that some of these pipes have never been replaced. And we're doing our best as we can with the resources we have available to start chipping away so that we can reduce the infiltration, because I'd rather replace pipes than have to expand our sewer plant. I think it's a more prudent way to do it.
And just to follow up to that, what point did we start putting the replacement pipe documentation into the system that we view as into GIS? I mean, is that back into the 70s? That some of it was just paper and then fed in, but what kind of service replacement records do we have that we're operating off of?
So anytime, Mayor and Councilor Urban, anytime that we in today's world, when we're approving a project, we are noting in our GIS system what size the pipe is, what's the material. Anytime that we go in and we don't have that information and we tend to work on a pipe, then we update that information. So I envision that when we go to do the sewer master plan, just as we're in the process of doing the water master plan, we work with our staff and we determine all the pipe sizes, the different medium that is being used, and we put that into the system. And right now in the water master plan, they're using all that information. And we believe we've done a really good job to the best of our ability to get all the various different types of product in the water and also the sizes. And then they use all that information to create a hydraulic plan. They're also doing pressure testing in those lines to determine whether or not they're leaking and those various different things. So we'll be doing something very similar. We'll build on that wet conditions monitoring that we did a year ago, and we'll be able to focus on those areas. So some of the things we'll be doing in the future would be smoke testing, being able to determine, which storm lines are connected into our sewer lines. It'll also give us an indication on lines that are failing. And we're also trying really hard we would really like to get in the position where we're able to camera every 5 years, have cameraed all the pipe. So every 5 year, we would be doing continuously to camera all those sewer lines to be able to look at the conditions, see if there's been any breaks, and make repairs once we find that we have a compromised pipe.
Councilor Mary Day.
I could provide some direct experience with that. I replaced my sewer line about 10 years ago, and it was the 6-inch concrete kind, and it was broken and full of holes. It was essentially a leach line. And then when it got to the toilet, it kept going and was hooked to the neighbor's house. And then there was no documentation on that. And so that was a learned experience. But they had the alley north of Adams that serviced everything on the north side of Adams, and there were the two houses in the middle of the block because of the numbered street sewers. So yeah, there's still a lot of mysteries out there, isn't there?
Mayor, Councilor Mary Day, thanks for sharing that information, because we do come across actually more often than we would think, where people come in, they have a sewer problem, we go out there and try to determine what it is, and then come to find out we have multiple homes hooked to the same line. And in today's new rules, state regulations, DEQ, if we have more than two or more homes hooked to a line, then it becomes city responsibility. It becomes a city main line. And there's a lot of those unknown ones that are hooked. So anytime we become aware of it and it's brought up to today's city standards, then we take responsibility of it.
Anyone else? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Concerns from council. Councilor Flack.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I guess I just want to start by saying, how grateful I am to have served up here for 22 of the last 24 and a half years. It's been a pleasure, and it's also been a challenge. I will be honest, it's going to be very weird getting used to not being busy all of the time. But I guess I also want to say thank you. I would have never given up. As many of you know, I am certainly determined, which I consider the good side of stubborn, and have always done what I tried to do was best for our city. I tried to be as informed as I could, and I welcome folks to disagree. It may have come across like I disliked people. It's absolutely not the case. The situation is that this has become ugly. It's become mean and nasty, and it shouldn't be. Democracy demands better. Democracy demands our patience, myself included. I mean, I owned it myself, that I've not always done as good a job as I'd like to, but I've learned a lot over the years. And so I get some time off, which I really enjoy. Calling out somebody at the podium about not being a resident is not about outing them. It's about honesty. It's about integrity. It's about not coming up and saying, I'm a resident when you're not. You don't pay the taxes in this town. I do. And I was also told goodbye a minute ago. I don't know if you're moving, Dick, but I'm not. And I certainly plan to be here. In fact, I can be one of you guys now. I can actually sit out there. I can come to the podium and I can speak at any length about the things that are right or wrong in this town. This is what being a citizen is. And I can do it from any place, whether it's up here or at that podium. And I guess what I am asking is I'm not saying let's continue fighting. I'm saying let's continue talking. This is where it starts. Whether you guys realize it or not, all the ills of the homeless situation now are on your shoulders, not mine. I'm completely out of this now. No longer can somebody say, all of these homeless problems are yours. And I'm not saying this out of malice. I'm saying this out of, I hope you guys are ready for that now falling on your backs. I guess I also want to caution you. George Bush Sr. said, read my lips, and then ultimately had to raise taxes because it was the right thing to do. One of the reasons I was recalled was for raising our water bill. Well, I guess the problem with that is if we don't, our system falls apart. It'll be more expensive later. We'll end up with moratoriums or we can't build like Cresswell. And so what I guess I'm asking is people to do what's right, not what's popular. And that's not easy. That is not easy. In fact, the reason our rates are high now is because we kicked the can down the road for a lot of years and didn't upgrade our facilities like we need to. So I guess for those of you planning on running, and I would encourage anybody with a passion and an interest to do so, do your homework, make sure that you are informed and do what's best for our citizens, whether it's popular or not. This is not an easy job, and it's not an easy job that you absolutely don't get compensated at all for. So once again, I just want to say thank you to our community. Thank you to all the folks who've served before and will after me. I am always around for support or criticism, whichever folks prefer or request. So I am staying in town. I will be active and busy. I will not be at that dais unless I have to, but I can. I'm still a citizen of this town, and I'm proud to be. Thank you.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Today was a Lane Economic Committee meeting, and there was a number of presentations, some updates about available grants and whatnot. But the presentation I found most intriguing was from, his name is Cliff Riley, former peace officer, retired now, working to address what was changed on Measure 110 in the legislature in Lane County. So Measure 110 was modified. That was the one that effectively decriminalized hard drugs. It was modified to make, I don't know all the details, but drug possession, presumably, and what were formerly crimes back into misdemeanors, a classless misdemeanor of some sort. And then it was stood up on the state level that I think there's 36 counties. You get to choose how you go about enforcement of this kind of a misdemeanor class. So it could go through the criminal justice system, I think as it had previously, or there was a pot of money laid aside for those that wanted to stand up, these counties that wanted to stand up a deflection program. So the idea is that the criminal justice system, from the peace officers to the municipal courts or county courts to all the staffing that goes along with that, and the jail system, food, all of that is one of the most expensive measures to affect what is hopefully a changed outcome to, get on the other side of a reformed individual that's pro-social and not a drain to society. And so this says, okay, what if we intercept them before they go into the criminal justice system and get them tied in with services, whether it be rehabilitation, rehab, and there's some other kind of wraparound housing being included in that. So I learned that Lane County has opted for to make a plan for a deflection program, and that is underway. It's still happening. They're accessing that state money to do so, but they were short on what they call navigators. I know we had a presentation at a city conference in Klamath Falls recently from Marion County, who was doing a similar thing, where they have people that have kind of gone through the system before, connect with individuals who are cited to help them hopefully get onto a better path. It did stand out to me that the things that they're lacking are low barrier shelters to house these individuals who are cited, as well as these navigators. There's a shortage. I know Florence was represented on that call and saying, what are we going to do here? We don't have any of this stuff. So there's certainly some challenges, but I just thought that was something to note, that as a region, this is the approach that, at least at I assume the sheriff's level, and I'd love to hear from our department if that goes straight down from the county level into our department as far as the approach, or if there's discretion on how those things are handled. But that's a conversation I'd like to continue. I'd like to hear more about, and intend to share what I learned as we go. Thanks.
Counselor Merryday.
So I took some notes about what everybody said, and I guess there's a theme about recall going through, and what are our steps forward, and the golden rule is in there. I was on the short list to be recalled, and somebody realized, oh, well, you won't have a quorum, and then have to have the county commission step in. So that's the only reason I'm still here. But I refuse to live in fear of being recalled. I'm going to always do what I want to do for the good of the community. And if you want to recall me, that's your right. Serve at the will of the people. So please help yourself. You know how to do it. You'd be doing me a favor. It's a lot of work. I didn't even know you get 3 or 4 additional committee meetings, and that's just when you get on the council, and then things come up like roads and bike ped committee and all kind of stuff. So yeah, feel free. But I hope we can all work together for the good of our little town, and it's going to be a little confusing. I just want to make sure everybody understands that there's a narrow window to apply for the 2 vacant seats that are going to be there. So, think about it and be ready to file on that very narrow window. It could be as long as 1 day. So I hope you do your homework and, get all your paperwork together so that you can apply to fill those positions and meet the voters. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I had to get it off my chest.
Thank you. Counselor Stennett, any? All right. Counselor Merryday brought up a topic, the committees. So we're going to need to probably, between all of council remaining, look to maybe help fill in for some of those committees that we're going to have open areas on. I talked to the president of council, and of Chamber of Commerce today, and he said that they're doing theirs a little differently now, and it's only like a 15-minute commitment at their meeting. So, and then they release you so you don't sit through the whole hour-and-a-half meeting. So if anybody's interested in that, maybe we could even take turns. So also I was contacted by some possible, candidates running for Congress, and they're talking about doing a possible debate in Cottage Grove, and want to get a hold of the city and talk some of those things through. I personally think that that would be a great idea to hear what the people running for those positions, what they stand for. Because obviously what Cottage Grove cares about in a lot of areas is very different than what our big metro, Eugene, Portland, what's important to them is not necessarily what's important to us. And so we need to make sure that the people that are running for those positions, that we really do our homework, because we're definitely seeing with what's going on in the world today that who sits in those spots can be very important to us as citizens of Cottage Grove, even our little small community. So I encourage everyone to really read up on it and don't just vote for a name that you necessarily just recognize, that you really do your homework before you fill in that little circle. And anyone else have any other comments? No? Well, thank you. All right. Business from the city manager. City department reports.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the City Council. As we have previously discussed, we're starting something new this year. We're going to be having each of our departments regularly give reports to the City Council, so you know what projects, goals, and accomplishments they've been working on. And this evening, we'll be hearing from the library, Public Works and Community Development. And at your next meeting, we'll be hearing from the Police Department, Human Resources, Community Services, and the Community Center, and Finance and the golf course. We had to put the golf course in somewhere. So to begin this evening, we'll be hearing from our library.
Good evening. My name is Natasha Chido. I am the head librarian for the city of Cottage Grove. I've been here almost 8 years now. End of the week will be my work anniversary. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the library department. Great. So one thing I did want to talk about a little bit before I get in specifically to our library is talking about the impact of public libraries and literacy. So literacy is a huge piece toward success in life. People who are functionally illiterate tend to have a harder time maintaining jobs, with them getting into contracts that end up having verbiage that they don't necessarily understand, and sometimes takes advantage of them in ways that don't improve the quality of their lives. During the last 4 years, we've seen that some of our literacy rates with our students have gone down due to having to do distance learning. And for those students who didn't meet standards within the first grade, most of them are going to be likely to struggle by the time they're in grade 4, and then still have trouble doing well academically and getting through all of those classes. So the more time that they spend trying to catch up, the less time they are at the pace where they need to be. And Unfortunately, education can be directly correlated with, with our lifetime earnings. People um, who tend to have more education also tend to be able to earn more over their lifetime. So that's stuff that they can invest back in the community. It helps with things like food security, um, being able to live in the same home throughout a descendant's childhood, etc. And for the most part, public libraries have been an institution for a very long time in the United States. We are an institution that was established in 1912, so we've been around for over 100 years here. And most people who go to the library tend to have really good experiences while they're there. And it provides a space where they have, programs and activities and other things that are not something that they have to pay for directly at that point. Next slide. All right. So in some of the conversations that were had a few months ago, we talked a little bit about pitting libraries against the police department. Honestly, we try to work with our police department and form partnerships. People who are better educated have more opportunities, and people who are more literate and have more access are less likely to be committing crimes and costing a local or regional government money in the form of being incarcerated over the years. Okay, so I pulled some. Sure. So the one beforehand, if you look at the orange line, that's spending per person that is in a tax area. And then the gray line is looking at the money that is spent in correlation with the rate of people who are incarcerated, and the money that and the time that police officers spend dealing with local crime. I know I had talked to the library director in Drain, and she specifically had mentioned when talking with the law enforcement that they had down there that they actually had a lot fewer calls after the Drain Library reopened than immediately after Douglas County closed down their library system. Does that make sense? Okay.
Where, in terms of the orange line, where are we in terms of dollars per person spent?
Per person, so we are a little less than $60 per household that we're spending on library services. Gosh, I'd have to go look back through my stuff, but I can get you an
60 or
exact
16?
60.
60 per household.
Mhm.
Are we averaging 3 people per household?
It really depends. We have individuals, and then we also have larger families. So I haven't specifically looked at the demographics of how many children people are having in their households on average. However, as far as it goes, yeah, the more people that are in a household, the more likely that the funds are going to be spread thinner for that. All right. So I pulled census data from the 2022 information gathering that they had. So if we look at our zip code 97424, the population is a little under 20,000 people. The reason why I pulled the zip code is because we're serving people throughout the zip code and not just city limits. People get out of area cards. We have people who live closer to Roseburg than here who still pay for out of area library cards because our services and offerings are better than what they offer in Roseburg. So I am taking that into consideration. So the employment rate for our zip code is 53.9% in 2022. That's really low. It's very, very low for the number of people that we do have in our zip code itself. With education, 21.3% is bachelor degree or higher. One can have a fulfilling job that earns them a lot of money without a bachelor's degree, but for a very long time, that was something that guaranteed more income over a lifetime, and a lot of job openings require a bachelor's degree or higher at this point. The big thing I did want to talk about is the poverty levels that we have within our zip code. Overall, we're looking at 16.1% of people who are below the federal poverty level, which is much lower than the median income. And if you break it down into people under 18, it jumps to 16.4%. If you look at the average adult, so 18 to 64 years, it jumps up to 17.9. So we're seeing a lot of people who do have an economic need to have easier access to services and information. And that's a big piece of what we have been offering at the library. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of library services in Lane County. At the State Library of Oregon, Ross Fuquay had put together a map that outlines all of the different libraries that are public libraries within the state. As you can see, we have a big blank area in Lane County. A little over 20 years ago, there was a ballot measure put forward in the 90s, in the very late 90s, about creating a county library system, and it didn't pass. But the problem is that it left so many people without any sort of library services or access who aren't currently able to afford library services. Right now, our Friends of the Library group is helping us with getting more people access to our library through sponsoring library cards with crowdfunding for that. And it has made a difference in what people are able to get out of it. And our regular patrons, we had somebody who came from Cresswell because he was on temporary disability leave, and he got in an accident as he was riding to his doctor to get release from workers' comp, and he got T-boned. And his job would not help him fill out the paperwork for Paid Leave Oregon. So even though they're legally required to. So we got information for him, a person to turn to, and what to do if they ended up having to, to go a legal route to get the tax-funded program that they're entitled to and that they've paid into. So up until the last few years, we haven't had a whole lot of cell phone reception throughout all of the areas that are covered by the city. I know that when I first started, there were a lot of dead zones in town, in major areas. And with our internet access, while we do have some ISPs available, as you can see, there's still a lot of dead zones. And home internet service is expensive. So we end up actually providing a lot more as a librarian way of having Wi-Fi access, with having computers. We do a lot of technology help on the fly. we have a lot of people who end up at the library because they have been sent from another social service or a court, or they've been given documents on an encrypted disk that they need help figuring out how to get the information that they have brought with them because it didn't make any sense to them. So this is a good portion of what we have been doing. And I'd like to be able to expand with more, with adding computer classes, if we can get laptops at some point through a grant, so we can do them on a larger scale, so it's easier for people to do computer classes rather than have someone behind them trying to instruct 8 people at a time. So here's some fast facts. We had, at the end of fiscal year 23-24, we had 2,184 active library cards. So a lot of our older users, before I started, the library was only giving 1 card per household. And we have changed that. If people are in city, then they can get as many cards as are people in their household. They just have to have like proof of ID and address and whatnot. In the last year, we've done 274 programs with over 1,500 attendees. We're open for 2,309 hours, and that includes the time that we're closed during the ice storm. Usually we're open about a week or 2 more. No worries. We had 27,724 in-person library visits. Ebooks and audiobooks, we have an app called Libby. It's also accessible through the internet, and we lend out ebooks and audiobooks as a lending model for people who can't come in addition to doing homebound services for folks that are within city limits. And it's very popular. It's not as popular as our physical items that we're lending out. As you can see, we have more than twice the number of physical items borrowed as we do ebooks and audiobooks, but it is very valuable to the folks who can't make it out of all the time. We had over 3,500 computer sessions, nearly 10,500 Wi-Fi connections as estimated by, based on the fact that we had just started tracking mid-November. If you look at the spreadsheet that is on the site, it's got the full set of numbers that I've been talking about. And I estimated based on converting 8 months to predicting 12 months worth of use there. And, you know, there are a lot of people using our Wi-Fi even when we're closed, which being able to have it on when we're not open provides a service. We do have students who do their online courses in our building, in our parking lot, in our lobby, wherever the Wi-Fi reaches, because they have needed that for the entire time that we have provided it. We answer a lot of reference questions, and we do end up having a lot of tech help sessions as well. Okay, so just to update with statistics from last month, we got 5 more active library cards in that past month. We had 29 programs with 458 attendees. Our summer library program is very popular. We have already exceeded our communal reading goal, and we're pretty excited about that. We invite anybody who is interested to come to our closing party, and it doesn't matter whether you participate in summer reading or not, we want you there. We will have games, we'll have snacks. You know, it's just supposed to be fun for, you know, families. So within that, we're open 194 hours this past month. We had over 3,000 in-person library visits. Now, to compare to 2019, when we were still doing field trips that were easily adding 50 to 60 people to our numbers per month, we exceeded the number of visits in the past month. So we're starting to get back up to previous use. And a lot of the data is getting more cleaned up by just being more judicious about how we use everything. We had 2,607 physical items borrowed, 1,108 ebooks and audiobooks borrowed, 381 computer sessions, 1,148 Wi-Fi connections, and 116 reference questions answered. So just to give y'all a primer on kind of the things that we lend, we have books, we have DVDs, we have music CDs, we have board games for a wide variety of ages. We have a lot of stuff that is geared toward younger learners, but we also have stuff that is suitable for families with mostly older kids as well. We have themed picture book backpacks, so that's something that we did before we changed our picture book section into having thematic neighborhoods so that we can make it a little bit easier for adults with children to get stuff that they can read to their children and have that, you know, that positive family experience of reading together without having to spend a lot of time making decisions about it. We have a seed exchange that is almost entirely funded by donations. Agrarian Sharing Network comes by every year with a giant bag of sorted and labeled seeds that they donate to us. We have residents who donate seeds from their gardens that they've saved. We've been doing programs related to it. And it's something that I started because of how much food insecurity I saw when we were in lockdown. In addition to that, we have the Museum of Natural and Cultural History passes. The Central Cascades Wilderness sends us a permit for parking every year, and it's for the summer. And I am working on getting state parks permits. We have 4 of them that were donated to us. So that means that people can borrow them for a week at a time and they can go visit the state parks and not have to worry about parking costs. So that's a big cost savings, especially because how expensive it can get if you're going to multiple parks within a weekend. And the other thing that I'm working on is it's within partnership of OSU Extension's Master Food Preservers. We are working on food preservation kits. So that's water bath canners with the tools that are needed or food dehydrators. So very basic pieces that are easy to learn and use safely. And as soon as those are going, I will definitely be making an announcement. Within our programs and events, we do baby lap time 2 sessions a week. So that's Thursday and Friday. The reason why we have 2 is because it was so popular, we had to have a second session to accommodate everyone. We do story times on Saturdays at 11:30. We show a classic movie every month. We do it midday so that it coincides with the Cafe 60 that's also in our building. We have a book club for adults. We have Lego club for kids once a month. It's probably our most popular program at this point. I want to start one for adults because we have so many of the adults that come with the kids that actually sit down and make stuff with their kids that, you know, it shows us that it's a valuable experience for them too, regardless of whether their kids are there. We do a program called Craft Tutor. So it's either a craft skill lesson that we guide them through or a finished project that we're working on. I've taught kids embroidery. We have made sensory jars where you shake it up and it's, you know, it's meant to be calming. We do a lot of this stuff either based on donations or very cheap from our craft supplies that we have. We have ukulele club for adults. It's, it's my Tuesday morning jam session that I get to listen to. It's so nice to have people coming in and making music and singing and having a good time in our building. And our summer reading program, on top of everything that we do during the week, we add another 20 plus programs to our schedule in a 10-week period. So, it's worth it. We get feel good stories about reluctant readers getting more enthusiastic about books. We have people who come in and they're super excited because we even give away books to adults when they sign up for summer reading, because we want to encourage people to enjoy that lifetime learning that they are experiencing by participating there. And lastly, libraries are a cost savings measure for the community. So the average library item cost is about 21 bucks. The average number of checkouts that we've been seeing in the past year is about 11 per person. Some people are power users who will come in and they'll check out like a stack of 20 picture books or 15 nonfiction books or half of our collection of a popular author at a time. And, doing that piecemeal, even if you're doing it at St. Vinny's or Goodwill, is not cheap. So we are really trying to save our patrons money as much as we can. Audiobooks are not cheap either. The average cost for a physical audiobook on CDs is about 72 bucks. That's average. So low end tends to be 20 to 40. High end is over $100 for a book that's been recorded on CD. Digital audiobooks are a little cheaper just by the nature of fewer materials. And we end up actually getting a lot of people back into reading through audiobooks, which is part of why we emphasize it so much. We do have free movie showings. I am always game for people suggesting movies that they're interested in having a show, as long as we have the the legal rights paid for with having a public presentation within reason. I'm happy to make it easier. We don't have a movie theater in town, and it's easier to come down to the library than it is to drive all the way up to Eugene. And movie tickets aren't cheap. So, the cheapest movie ticket at Cinemark in July was $9 for adult. And that's during a matinee, and $7.25 for kids. And museums can be expensive to visit as well. And author events, if you go to any sort of program that's run by, say, like a book fair or what have you, it can get really expensive per person to visit and hear someone speak about the work that they've done. And then the last page on here is just my works cited. So you can go back and look at all the info that I gleaned.
Thank you, Natasha. Anyone have questions? Thank you so much.
Public Works.
All righty, thank you. So there's a lot of information. I'll do my best to hopefully whip through it. But the Public Works Department, just a second, let's see that. So the Public Works Department is responsible for the potable water treatment and distribution of water, wastewater collection and treatment, engineering, street maintenance and sweeping, storm drainage, park maintenance, buildings and grounds, fleet facilities, and the golf course. So with that, I would also, before I get too far into it and I don't forget, I want to say thank you to Shauna and I for helping me create, she created a PowerPoint, took my mess of information and made it look good. And then I also want to say thank you to my daughter-in-law for taking a couple of days off and helping take all the pictures, or a lot of the pictures. Maybe just go down, scroll down. There you go. So our departmental goals right now is to complete the master planning for all the utilities, maintain safe streets and infrastructure, water and wastewater compliance, and secure street funding. Some of our recent projects, and maybe I won't hit those too much, but we're just finishing up the R Street extension, the construction of the River Road Dog Park, the Bohemia Park entrance plaza, which is under construction presently. We completed the East Side Reservoir Road, completion of the wastewater treatment clarifier reconstruction, re-roofing the cart barn at the golf course. And we partnered, assisted with facilitating the Highway 99 upgrades and upgraded our water infrastructure in that street. And then probably the biggest item that we dealt with this past year was just the storm recovery and cleanup. So our engineering department, I guess it was about 2.5 years ago, we restructured the engineering department. And we have 2 city of engineers of records. One is Branch Engineering. They provide us engineering support for really all of our day-to-day items and everything except for wastewater and water treatment facilities. And that's our second engineer of record, which is West Yost. Some of our items in the engineering is we oversee capital improvements, direct and assist the city engineers of record, review development applications, respond to city infrastructure needs, post-project updates, provide project notices, file BOLI reports. We run ads, place bids for either purchases or services. We prepare contracts, oversee the construction projects, oversee the contracts, approve payments, ensure that all monthly, semi, and annual reports are filed. Those are the TMDLs, the waste solids reports, our lab results, the water plants, utility water conservation reporting, and the public water reduction information. Grant reporting for solid waste reporting. We provide inspections for construction and development, plan reviews, support the utilities, planning and building departments, and also review right-of-way permitting. Some of our current projects that we are working on right now is the Water Master Plan, loan documents for the Stormwater Master Plan, completing the R Street Extension, Bohemia Park project, biosolids drying, a solar project, golf course pro shop remodel, picnic pavilion at Bohemia Park, our upcoming chip seal projects for both streets and also the golf course, working on the street funding, which was the ballot measures that that the council approved the resolutions for. And we'll also be looking at LIDs and transportation utility fees for specific improvements. We're also engaging with Energy Trust on an energy audit of the wastewater, which is called the SEM program, to look for ways we can create efficiencies. We're rolling out a Text My Gov project. Hopefully this week we'll be able to start sending texts to citizens that sign up for that service for notification, just another way for us to connect with our citizens. We're also looking at a cyanotoxin feasibility study. We have a lead pipe report that's due to the state in October, and we're trying to improve our fats, oils, and grease program. And we have the Main Street renovation program, which we hope will go to bid in December and hopefully start construction in January. And finally, we're knee deep right now in FEMA ice storm recovery funding documents. And Shauna is our project coordinator. She's the one that probably does most of that work. So she's awesome. Next, we already kind of touched about the projects. And then we got fleet and facilities next. So fleet and facilities, I would just share with you that we have three, I believe it was three summer hires this year assisting in fleet and facilities. One of them was provided by the Coast Fork Watershed. And then we have, they're pictured there. We have Greg Yoss, we have Travis, and Morgan was, Travis is the mechanic. Morgan is a intern mechanic. We have Chad, and we have two custodians, Michelle, Jennifer. And probably the most important individual there is Rhonda. She keeps track of making sure everybody is supported and has work to do. And then Mike Cummings is the facilities and fleet manager. And their duties that they participate in is maintain and repair all vehicles and equipment. And that's in the neighborhood of in excess of 400 items. They maintain all the parks and facilities, landscaping, gather and haul all garbage, water hanging baskets, support events and needs by setting up canopies, stage, signage, saddle span. They really do the bulk of setting up for the symphony. They maintain all facilities with their heating, cooling, and generators. That would include the city hall, public workshop, community center, library, golf course, Wi-Fi huts, parks, and armory. They, spearhead the remodeling, painting of interior, from having to address plugged up toilets to repairs of doors and anything that comes their way facility wise. They support the tenants that are in at the community center. And as I said, we have two custodians that make sure that all those items, the community center, city hall, army, golf course, and park bathrooms, and also provide event setup for all those facilities. The current projects that are being undertaken by the fleet and facilities is building benches for the Bohemia Park project. They install and remove the streeteries, and been working on remodels in the police department. They do an annual assessment of all playground equipment, and they stock in all the restrooms and dog parks, do annual fire system checks and inspections, make sure all the lights are operational, street lighting, street banners. They hang those, of course, and it goes unsaid, all the mowing and HVAC maintenance. Then we have the utilities department. This year we had two summer hires in the utilities, which was Griffin and Cameron. And then Mike O'Reilly leads, he's the supervisor. And then we have Hayden, Mike, Jason, Nate, Pete, Chris, Micah, Ron, Seth, and Daniel. And the utility responsibilities is they're responsible to ensure that all streets, water distribution, sewer collection, and storm drainage systems are operational and safe for the users. The streets, we have 45 miles of paved and 5 miles of gravel. They do all the sign maintenance and repair, street striping, crack sealing, street sweeping, pothole repair, road grinding, and some of the more not so glamorous dead animal removal and garbage removal. In the water distribution, our system requires a level 3 certified individual to oversee that, which Mike O'Reilly is our certified level 3 operator. And there's 45 miles of water distribution. We have the Taylor and Holly pump stations. We perform regular water blow-offs throughout the system to maintain the chlorine levels. That's a weekly function. Water meter installation and testing. They repair the water main breaks, water shut-offs and turn-ons monthly when folks are delinquent on their bills. Inspect new installations for the developments, respond to all service calls after hours and weekends, and backflow testing and cross-connection testing. The wastewater portion of the collection is also a level 3 certified. We operate and maintain 4 lift stations and do weekly line and main line flushing. They respond to all plugged lines, repair main water collection sewer line failures. And then they clean in camera looking for failures to repair. In storm drainage, we clean the catch basins, mow and maintain the drainage dishes, camera lines, and then also clean the lines and grates. Some of the other things that they've done outside of their normal day-to-day is they disassembled and rebuilt the log pavilion over at the Prospector Park. They've excavated for roads and other structures out at the golf course. They built a new tee box, cart paths, and did the excavation for the cart barn. They also maintain the bicycle and walking paths, and then also been working on the new path behind the middle school. They also do road culvert cleaning and brush cutting throughout the city, including on the disc golf and up at the reservoirs. So quite a bit of activity there. Oh, but you can keep going. Those are all just statistics of how many miles and various different things. And we have the water production team. There's currently 4 employees. We have Ryan Kimball, who is the superintendent. Then we have Harley White, Steve Norman, and Jason Binker. We also eventually will have an additional halftime person that will assist in the water treatment and also the over at the water reclamation facility or the wastewater treatment. At the water treatment plant, their daily production on average is 1.2 million gallons per day, 1 million gallons in the winter, and upwards of 2.5 million in the summer. The plant can produce 4 million gallons, but we do have the capacity to treat up to 6 million once we make the necessary improvements to the facility, the pump station that pumps up to the reservoirs. Some of the daily activities, they do a lot of testing. So they test the influent, the treated water tests, which include alkalinity, pH, hardness, water or color test, turbidity, organics, temperature, test both the raw water on Mosby Creek and the Row River. And they check chlorine levels in 4 different locations each day throughout the city. During the summer months, they test for the algae bloom to ensure that there's no cyanotoxins being produced or going through the system. And they also test for coliform. This team provides all the routine maintenance for the facility and or the reservoirs. They do weekly summer tests for the cyanotoxins, as I already stated. Home line testing this year, they actually completed that. They did 31 home line tests to test for lead and copper. And I will share that they all came back negative, so that was positive. And then, yeah.
I know at one time we had difficulty filling the different certified positions for the water plant. Has that been alleviated?
Wastewater.
Oh,
Wastewater's been very difficult.
Oh, not the drinking water?
Yeah, I think it's probably drinking water is a little bit more favorable than wastewater. But, you know, there has been times in the past when it has been difficult to interest certified individuals to come to Cottage Grove. So a lot of our past practice has been to do operators in training. If we get somebody interested and they have the skills and we can get them certified within 6 months to a year, then we tend to take that path too. Then whenever we receive complaints from citizens, we go out and test their water to ensure that it's meeting the criteria. We provide monthly reports to the Oregon Health Authority. And then once a year, we produce the annual Consumer Confidence Report. Some of the projects that we're working in the water treatment plant is to upgrade the lime and potassium chemical feeds, also working on future reservoir sites with a hope to expand our reservoir capacities. We're also working on trying to get the portable treatment plants that we purchased from the state operational so that we have them in case there's a natural disaster that knocks out our treatment facility. And lastly, our plant was rebuilt probably about 15 years ago. And we're starting to plan now for a replacement plan for our larger pumps because we're just concerned that they'll start to get to their end of life cycle. And we want to be ready to have those rebuilt or install new ones before they fail. And the water reclamation facility, commonly known as the wastewater treatment plant, this facility, we have, once again, we have Ryan Kimball, who's the superintendent at the facility. Then we have Dave Belden and Andrew Vandehay and Kelly Christensen. And this summer we had one summer hire that assisted us here. This facility runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, treats anywhere from 1.3 to 3.5 million gallons a day. Our peak flows that we can handle is somewhere between 13 to 15 million gallons. We do daily lab testing for total solids, temperature, coliform, chlorine, E. coli, ammonia, phosphorus. We also provide monthly reports. This facility does require a level 4 certified operator, and Councilor Meriday, we had this position posted for nearly a year and was unable to fill that position. So we have a contract with Craig Prosser, who is the superintendent for the Albany facility, and he provides us our level 4 certified requirements for turning in our reports. The summer months, per our total maximum daily load restrictions, we ship approximately 650,000 gallons of treated effluent to the golf course so that we meet our restrictions of what we can put back into the Ghost Fork. And then our biosolids are sent weekly, somewhere between 1 to 2 loads to herd down south near Roseburg. And our crew is responsible, obviously, for the daily operation, all the maintenance and upkeep of the facility. Upcoming notables is our DEQ permit renewal. We've been told every year that it's next year, and right now we're being told that our renewal will be 2025. We are still working on trying to design a biosolids dryer so that we can treat those and use that product locally. And then some of the concerns that I'm watching is microplastics and PFAS and mercury. Those are items that we will most likely see some changes in by the EPA and DEQ and in what they will allow. So those will be potentially challenging to deal with.
Councilor Urban.
That was a thought that came up when we're talking about our line replacements, whether it be feed lines or sewer lines. What's that one, the C19? Are the new plastics not containing the PFAS materials?
Yeah, so Mayor, Councilor Irvin, so there's microplastics and then there's something completely different, which they call as PFAS. Those are, and that's an acronym. Those are chemicals that are harmful to any humans and actually pets, wildlife, whatever. They're essentially products, the chemicals that create those PFASs are chemicals that are used to a lot in waterproofing, their makeup. They tend to, it's a product that produces that type of resistance for water. And we have tested our water treatment facility. There is no PFAS products in our water treatment. And we have tested our wastewater, which is the end product. We have detected PFAS product, but right now at this time, they're below the levels, the allowable levels by the EPA and the DEQ. So we're still in compliance. There is a real concern that those numbers, that they're going to address those and reduce the allowable limits, which could be pretty detrimental to us. It's very expensive to treat that. One of the things I learned recently is that the biosolids dryer that we've been looking at, the Bioforce Tech, kind of the composter, we can actually add some additional equipment. It's expensive, but there, if at some time we needed to, what we're looking at for drying the biosolids would also remove the PFAS from the biosolids. So yeah, it's really concerning. And right now it's kind of unknown. EPA and DEQ are working on those allowable limits. I would share that in the United States, it's illegal to use those products, but in other countries where where they manufacture products and we buy them, they are still allowing the PFAS, waterproofing type materials, even like your non-stick pans that you use for cooking, they have that same product on them. And so as it breaks down, either in the wash machine or a dishwasher, it comes to us.
Thank you. Yeah, just looking at there more and more data coming out as far as testing and where those chemicals, forever chemicals, what they refer to them as, stay in the body, and they're in every system. Yep. Yep. But from 2020 to 2024, it was, it's just in these, in the digestive system, and then further studies have gone, it's in absolutely every system in the body. So it'd be, yeah, good to be looking out for that as far as that.
Yeah, it was interesting today. I got a call from a student at the U of O that asked me a bunch of questions about PFAS and what we were doing and how it was going. So I was able to answer the questions, and that individual was very thankful that I was able to at least knew what PFAS and microplastics were. So. And then lastly, we have the golf course maintenance. We have, of course, Roger Van de Hey, who is our superintendent. We have Joe Simons, who's our assistant, and our other full-time employee is Todd. And then the rest of those individuals there are all regular part-time folks that work at the course. At the course, Herb is Herb is also full-time. He's a full-time mechanic, and he maintains all of the various different pieces of equipment, probably in upwards of 300 items that it's used to maintain the course. The golf course under Roger's supervision has made just incredible improvements each year. I don't know if we've shared this with the council, but for the last, since we reopened after the ice storm, we've had record sales or revenue generated at the golf course. April was I think it was like 86,000. May was $50 short of 100. June was 115. July was 108,000. Those are huge numbers when you reflect and go back. So I've been reporting to the men's club each month. So in July, we had $108,000 of gross revenue for 2024. And then the previous years, the best we had was 60,000. So we're really seeing a lot more play. And the course is in excellent shape, and we're getting, carts. We're making it a great experience for folks. Pardon? Oh yeah, we had the wastewater. Well, we've had 2 weeks ago, we had a wastewater tournament that had 97 individuals that participated. There was 24 teams. That's the largest tournament that's ever been hosted since the city's on the course. And then last weekend there was the Stovall tournament, and the weekend upcoming is the chamber tournament. So I mean, there's just a lot of neat activity going on there. But to make that happen, these individuals, when we have a tournament like the wastewater tournament, where it's a shotgun start and it starts at 8 o'clock, our crew started at 4 o'clock in the morning. That means every green, everything has to be prepared and ready for people to start golfing at 8 o'clock. General work hours, they start at 5, and then in the wintertime, they start at 7. In general, they start with blowing the greens off, fixing all the ball marks, and then it takes one person approximately 4 hours to mow all the greens. There's also the rough mowers, one person, it takes approximately 6 days to mow all the roughs. So once you get done making the rounds, you're immediately mowing again. So these folks put in a lot of time, and I'll let Bert will touch on the pro shop, but I believe between the pro shop and the crew we have in the maintenance, that's really what's making the golf course be successful right now. So I believe that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you,
Right.
Mr.
Thank
Stewart.
If there are any questions, then community development.
Thank you, Mayor. We need to look at the time.
So extend by a half hour. Want to extend?
I'll keep it to 29 minutes then. Forgive me, but I'm a planner that does not favor PowerPoint presentations. I'm just gonna kind of go through what the department's been up to year to date. First off, I want to give a big shout out to the department. For those of you who don't know, the department's made up of the building inspection program, which is led by Jason Bush, our building official, Melanie Clemmer, our senior permit specialist and residential inspector, and Ryan Bennett, our electrical inspector. On the planning side, we have Lenny Crow as our associate planner, and then Tina McDonald is our planning and building specialist. She helps out with both sides of things. I just want to point out that the level of dedication and commitment these folks give every day to provide excellent customer service is what makes this department what it is: professional, creative, efficient, and respected. The planning division oversees land use as is presented in the goals and policies of the Cottage Grove Comprehensive Plan. It acts as the primary enforcement for several sections of the municipal code, including the development code and nuisance codes. Staff supports the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, and the Urban Forestry Committee. Additionally, community, as I stated, the building inspection program is also in community development. Excuse me. Both the building and planning divisions of the department contract out their services to other cities, with the building program providing inspections and plan review services to the cities of Veneta, Crestwell, and Coburg, and the planning division providing land use and floodplain management to the city of Drain and floodplain management to the city of Crestwell. Under the planning division, year-to-date info, we've presented I guess this will make 21 items to council. Those things include the annual TMDL report, annual update, urban forestry update. We've led one work session, real property transactions, commission and committee appointments, a handful of ordinances and resolutions. We've processed 35 land use applications, and that's from sign permits to subdivisions. We've held 4 planning commission meetings, 2 historic preservation commission meetings, 5 urban forestry committee meetings, published 2 riparian newsletters, completed 35 site visits between Cottage Grove and Drain and Crestwell, completed 25 final field inspections to approve for certificates of occupancy. Planning staff attended the 2024 Association of State Floodplain Managers Conference, both in person and virtually. Our associate planner established the Oregon Floodplain Managers Group, a network of Oregon floodplain managers that meet quarterly to discuss various topics regarding floodplain regulation, but also to serve as a network for problem solving and advocacy. when I wrote this, I was still the city planner. So there's going to be some bullets here that sound kind of funny at this point. But when I was still the city planner, I worked with Homes for Good over the course of 3 months this spring to come up with housing production strategies, with the presentation being presented to the Eugene Chamber of Commerce Community Solutions Summit. Planning staff also taught the course with the University of Oregon staff, the Real World Lane County course. City planner attended 10 check-in meetings for the pedestrian and bicycle plan, 4 meetings for the economic opportunities analysis, and 5 meetings for the proposed urban renewal district. Held the first of 3 public economic advisory opportunities analysis advisory committee meetings. Staff has applied for 2 grants, the Paul Brune Historic Renovation Grant and the Oregon Resiliency Hub Grant, and is currently drafting an application for a large urban forestry grant. As expected, we've answered hundreds of questions from the community regarding anything from land use to nuisance code, notarized over 200 documents. There have been a total of 27 code compliance cases between tall grass and other nuisance code violations. And of course, can't say it enough, provided excellent customer service. The building division completes on average between 250 and 300 inspections per month, with 20 plan reviews per month. The building staff, between the 3 of them, have attended 3 different professional conferences. Additionally, building staff have made themselves regularly available to answer questions at the counter for those who are walk-in customers or on-site questions. And these projects ranging from 120 unit apartment complexes or just your basic shed construction. Goals or upcoming ongoing items in the planning side of things. Continue work on the Cottage Grove pedestrian bicycle plan with a target completion date of October. Continue work on the economic opportunities analysis that is scheduled to be completed in May of 25. Work with the consultants in preparing documents regarding the urban renewal district and getting that information out to the community prior to consideration by council. Implement necessary development code updates to reflect recent changes in state law. Draft and present a revised sign ordinance. Bring the low income rental housing property tax exemption to council for a second vote and approval by a companion resolution to include getting the support of our partner taxing districts. Work with downtown Cottage Grove, the EBID, the chamber, and the CDC to create a strategic plan for supporting business retention, recruitment, expansion within the community. It is our plan also to present a revised EBID ordinance to council in the coming months to improve our fee collection procedures to support that program. We're also in the midst of soliciting requests for Cottage Grove historic facade renovation grant applications. This year there is $20,000 available in that fund. It's a 1-to-1 matching program. So if anyone is listening, please contact me so that we can get you applied. Continue to implement the urban forest management plan. We'll be seeking grant funding for economic development support, long-range planning efforts. These are things like the pedestrian bicycle plan. There's currently a grant-funded project that's almost complete. The economic opportunities analysis, which is also grant-funded. Support public works in public improvement project grants, and then urban forestry related grants. Also, and then lastly, the building staff has recently completed their fee audit, and it's under its 45-day review with the state, and is the goal of staff to present those findings to council at its second meeting in September. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mullen.
Just a comment that I would reiterate the helpful nature of the department and appreciation for that and how far that goes with getting development, getting people to do stuff, improve. So appreciate that.
Any other questions? Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. In light of the fact that we have an executive session, which could be rather lengthy, I would suggest that we bump the follow-up to discussion for the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget to our next city council meeting to just kind of give it the time that it deserves. I have two other brief items that I'd like to discuss. First of all, every time I sit in this seat, I see this jersey over here from Botswana. And I thought I'd just report on the Botswana track and field team at the last Olympics. The folks who came to Cottage Grove during the World's Championship in Eugene, one of the folks, and I hope I do not butcher his name, Letseal Tobogo, was a sprinter. He just won the gold medal at the Summer Olympics in the 200 meters event. And now becoming the second African to achieve such a feat, his win also earned him the first ever Olympic gold medal for Botswana. And while they were here at the World Championships, he won the silver medal in the 100 and followed it up with a bronze in the 200. So congratulations to the folks from Botswana. Just to take it a step further, the Botswana team also won the silver medal in the men's 4x400. And they were only a 1/10 of a second back from getting the gold medal. They've already committed that they'd like to return to Cottage Grove to train here for the World Championships in 2026, and so we'll certainly be welcoming them back. So, congratulations to our friends from Botswana. And also, as we discussed with the City Council on Friday, the city is transitioning our Douglas and 12th Street shelters to a single 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shelter. And we'll pass out some PowerPoints to you if you'd like a paper version of it, and we'll also get it up on the screen. Now, some people use the term dusk to dawn, which is fine, but as we know, the sun sets at different times during the year. So I prefer using the term 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And let's see. Just go to the next slide, please. Our goals and priorities are fairly simple and straightforward. We want to clean up the 12th Street and the Douglas Street shelter sites, and we want to transition to a single 7 p.m. To 7 a.m. shelter. Just to equate everybody with the changes we'll be making on this map, at the bottom of the page is Main Street. If you look up to the middle right, that is the existing 12th Street shelter. And on the left, that is the Lulu Dog Park with the red lines on it. One thing I just want to point out is the building on Main Street above from Lulu Dog Park, that is the car wash. The car wash's property actually extends into the dog park area currently. So about where that white line is, about a third of the way up, the area that we'll be using for the Lulu shelter is the area up north of that. So what is our transition plan? Well, starting now through Thursday, August 22nd, we've been communicating and posting the Douglas and 12th Street shelters. We've been preparing the temporary Lulu site, both physically and administratively. And what we're doing is creating 10 by 10 foot spaces for folks to be able to spend the night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And we're preparing for our transition day, which again is Thursday, August 22nd. On Thursday, August 22nd, we'll be making the transition from the Douglas and 12th Street shelters to the temporary, and I stress the word temporary, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Lulu site. We'll be closing the Douglas and the 12th Street shelters, and then we'll be cleaning up those two sites. Now, our goal, and it is somewhat aspirational, is to complete the cleanup by the end of September. But the reality is we're not going to really know what it is we're facing until we move folks out of there and start the cleanup. So by the end of September, that's our goal. We're going to clean up the Douglas site, the 12th Street shelter. And again, we're going to prepare the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. street shelter. And that's going to be 10 by 10 spaces over at 12th Street, because we're going to move the folks from the Lulu site back over to 12th Street. We're doing that for really two reasons. One, because we want to reestablish the Lulu Dog Park. Again, as I stress, this is temporary use of that facility, but also there's a much better all-surface site where the 12th Street shelter is. So at the end of the day, what we're going to have accomplished is we're going to have mothballed the 99 shelter. We're going to have cleaned up and closed the Douglas shelter. And it's my understanding that that property was originally purposed for low-income housing, which it could be again. It's really up to the council what you want to do with that piece of property. But we will be cleaning it up and not opening it again as a shelter. We'll be cleaning up the 12th Street shelter and transitioning it to a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shelter. Now, initially, we'll be working with a private security firm who has experience working with shelters both in Eugene and Roseburg, and utilizing some of their expertise to do things like put rules in place as we're being posting rules and regulations for those shelters, and we'll be working off of their expertise. We do have contract services funds included in the budget. So last but not least, let me just be really clear. This is a far from, next slide. This is a far from perfect solution, and it is a work in progress. It's taken us 3 years to get to this point, and it's going to take us some time to resolve the situation. I also want to be very realistic and intellectually honest with the council as to what city staff's bandwidth, specifically the Public Works Department, the Police Department is, which is the reason why, at least initially, we're going to be working with a private security firm. Our staff is at their maximum right now, and we want to make sure that they're able to continue doing their jobs. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we did have a concern raised regarding the public or the private security and credentials and training and whatnot. Can you speak to that?
Sure, certainly. The firm that we're going to be working with is called One Security. Like I said, they have experience working with homeless camps in Eugene area, also in Roseburg. They gave us a list of references. We've checked their references. We're in the process of putting together a scope of work, which will then lead to a contract. As part of the process, actually, we're doing a walkthrough tomorrow with our police department and our public works department and One Security to familiarize them with the site. Having said that, when I talked with them on the phone, they knew exactly what I was talking about because a number of their employees live in Cottage Grove, in the Cottage Grove area. So, I completely understand people's concern. It's a very legitimate concern to raise, but understand that, we've checked out what we think is a very professional organization. And, again, we're looking at a 90-day contract with them. And, we'll come back and talk with the council if we decide to extend it beyond that. But, this is a short-term fix.
Councilor Flack.
So I had talked to our city manager about costs going forward. I hope I'm wrong, but I think this is going to impact our staff. And I've asked the city manager to track that information so that going forward, we understand what the impact of this choice is. I mean, I think it's only fair to have data, good or bad, considering, and I do believe this is our only course at this point. I think it's unfortunate. I think we had a huge opportunity that is, at least for the time being, lost. But I want to know what the impact is going to be on our city. not as a, I told you so, but as a, we have to weigh this in the future if we want to do this, continue doing this or try to do something different. And I think it's better to be informed as far as what that is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this came up clear back when we were talking about the budget. Is I think the council made the point then, and staff's taken it to heart, that you want us to develop that data. And through employees' time cards, I think Bert's online, through employee time cards, we're able to keep track of the actual time people are spending working on these homeless issues. And specifically, it's not just public works or police, it's the city manager, it's other department directors are documenting their time as well. That would conclude my report, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Items to be removed from the consent agenda? There are none. So now it's executive session held pursuant to ORS 1. Oh, sorry. Did I do that to you last time, Karen? I'm sorry.
I'm happy to let you just jump over me, but I'm like, it's on the agenda and I'm here. So just to follow up on two items that came up tonight. So the council for the first time in a while has referred a bond measure and a gas tax increase to voters. And I just want to be really clear, I'm going to be working with staff to ensure once the council made that referral vote, city staff has their hands tied. They cannot advocate for the passage of those measures, and the job falls on elected officials and other members of the community in order to try to explain really clearly the benefits, the background, all of that. And so I just want everyone to understand there's a legal state statute limitation on that does not permit political advocacy by public employees once that referral occurs. And then just the second piece is with regard to the city manager's report just now with closing the existing camps and moving that around. I just want to make sure that everybody understands this is all possible under the code provisions that were adopted in 2021. So the council gave the flexibility and the guidance at the time in 2021 to allow staff to be able to do this without code amendment, without further council action. And it is now being, the course is being modified, but no code amendments are required or resolution amendments. Okay, thanks. That's it for tonight.
Thank you. Now we will go into executive session. Executive session held pursuant to ORS 192.6602E, which allows the council to meet in executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. Executive session held pursuant to ORS 192.6602F, which allows the council to meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Council will now recess, and we will be coming back to resume this session after executive session is completed.
Yes.